Happy Juneteenth, everybody. Alan Weber here from the Mayor's office, still with my mask. Reminding everybody to stay safe and remember to wear a face covering when you go out in public. Use hand sanitizer. When you leave and when you get home, wash your hands and continue to practice social distancing. I say that because the numbers aren't good. We knew that as we reopened there would be an increase in our COVID cases, but as I look at the last 4 or 5 days, the 15th there were 3 new cases, the 16th 5 new cases, the 17th 6 new cases, yesterday 3 new cases. We're on an upsurge, and it's to be expected in some respects because we are opening up. We are experiencing more economic activity, which is good. At the same time, we can't lose our focus about COVID-19. The Santa Fe promise, safe, open, together. We only can open if we're safe. So please remember to stay focused on COVID-19. We haven't won this battle yet. In fact, the second wave is now sweeping the country. Last week we saw hospitals in Arizona, our neighbor state, the ICU hospital beds at maximum capacity. We're glad we're getting more people visiting our city. The hotels are opening up. I've heard from general managers they're approaching the 50% limit that the governor put on hotels. That's good for business, but it's got to be good for our health too. So please, as residents, show tourists who come here what the Santa Fe promise looks like. We are wearing face coverings when we go out in public, and when we do that, my mask protects you, your mask protects me, the hand sanitizer, the distancing, it's all critically important. So stay focused, let's stay safe, let's open the city and do it together. This week was a big week for social justice. June is Pride Month, and June 27th there'll be a virtual Pride parade. We're shooting for September the 19th for a parade, but in the meantime, this week the Supreme Court delivered a historic decision. It said that employers who fire workers for being gay or transgender are breaking the country's civil rights laws. The next decision came down saying that the Supreme Court was affirming our DACA residents, that they could stay here safely, and the Dreamers were protected, that the president could not do away with that protection for the Dreamers. These are big statements about civil rights and equality. And today is Juneteenth, celebration of the end of slavery. If you don't know the story and the role that Texas plays in Juneteenth, check it out on the web. But in the meantime, I'd like to suggest that Juneteenth be a day where we each spend a little bit of time in reflection about the journey to freedom. I was on the plaza last night with the representatives of the Native American community who were arguing for their rights. There were people there from Black Lives Matter. There were people there from all parts of our community, and they were talking about the long march to freedom, a term actually that comes from not the United States, but from Nelson Mandela in South Africa. Nelson Mandela, when he was jailed for his activities to try to overturn apartheid, got out of jail and said to the people who had put him there, "I understand why you did it. If I had been in your shoes, I probably would have put myself in jail." He proceeded to take the man who was his jailer out to lunch on a regular basis to commiserate with his jailer for the fact that his jailer had had to be in a position to put Nelson Mandela in jail. And they set up a Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa. There's since been one in Greensboro. My intention is to set one up here in Santa Fe, because we are at a pivot point in our history on this long march, this long walk to freedom. We need to reflect on our past. We need to be honest about hundreds of years, not just the current issues, but hundreds of years where across America there was too much violence, there was too much bloodshed, there was too much racism, there was not enough compassion, there was not enough reconciliation. Here in northern New Mexico, all parties have suffered. Everyone has been a victim of violence. And when we look at our past, when we look at our history, we recognize that there were wrongs on all sides, but beyond the wrongs are the growing together of a community that shares so much in the way of shared values, shared community, even shared families who are all parts of the same community. So today is a day to reflect on all of that history. I printed out Martin Luther King's speech from 1963. It's called I Have a Dream, but it was actually a speech about the fierce urgency of now. And if you read what he says, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. He goes on to say, we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. We've come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. That was in 1963 in August, and now here we are in the summer of 2020, going back to the Bank of Justice for all of God's children to talk about ways to break through the prison of racism. You know, there's a tendency to look at the moment we're in as winners and losers, that when we remove a historic statue or an obelisk, that somebody is winning and somebody is losing. I don't look at it that way. When there is racism, we are all losers. When there is reconciliation, we are all winners. And so when we come together as a community around a conversation about truth and reconciliation, we can only all be winners. We will learn from each other. We will come to a better understanding of each other's lived experiences, the suffering that everyone has endured, and the resiliency that everyone has shown. That's the message on Juneteenth, that we are in this together. We're in the COVID-19 struggle together. If you look at what COVID-19 has done to America, the people who have suffered the most in New Mexico are the Native Americans. The people who have suffered the most across America are the African Americans. And so as people who are trying to show compassion to all Americans, COVID-19 has called upon all of us to step up and recognize inequities in healthcare, in education, in nutrition, in opportunity that must be extended to everyone in our community. It's the same when it comes to justice. There cannot be two different approaches to justice. There must be equal justice for everyone, and that's why the two Supreme Court decisions are so heartening this week. We are seeing equal justice for our community, whether you're an immigrant under DACA, or you're a gay or transgender individual, or a member of a family. We are all looking for equal justice, equal opportunity, equal treatment, equal health care, equal education, equal job opportunity, equal housing opportunity. That must be the lesson of 2020. When the history of this decade, this century gets written, 2020 will go down in history. This is an historic moment where we are called to step up. It can be scary to contend with change, to face the need to change. It can be threatening. It can be the kind of thing that provokes anger and resistance. On the other hand, it can also provoke or provide an opportunity for joy, for a sense of destiny, that we're really called to a higher work, the higher work of healing, the higher work of reconciliation, the higher work of really creating a legacy for our children and our grandchildren to be proud of us in this moment. 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King addressed the nation in this historic speech. Today, it's up to us to pick up that speech and cash that check of opportunity and equality for all citizens, for all residents, for everybody in Santa Fe and everybody in northern New Mexico. It's nothing to be afraid of. If there is anger, that may be appropriate if the anger leads to positive action. It cannot lead to violence. It cannot lead to more destruction or more divisiveness. Anger or fear or sadness are emotions that reflect this time of change. And as we step into those emotions, what we learn from them is that we're all in it together. We're all the same. We are all God's children, as Dr. King reminded us. So take a minute, think about your own family, think about your own history, think about the ways that we are joined by shared values, shared community, shared experiences. And as we head into Father's Day and this weekend, come together around the things that connect us rather than being angry about the things that may divide us. We have so much going for us in Santa Fe and in New Mexico. Unlike the rest of the country, when we protest, we talk to each other, we engage with each other, we look each other in the eye, and we speak the truth to each other. And from truth comes reconciliation. So please join me, join with each other, join with your own family on this weekend of Father's Day to take a minute for reflection, for prayer, for peace and reconciliation, to enjoy the blessings of living in Santa Fe, in northern New Mexico. Stay safe. Remember, COVID-19 is not gone. It is a challenge for all of us together to stay safe, open, and together. Have a safe weekend. Enjoy the beautiful weather. Enjoy peace. Think of reconciliation. Have a good Father's Day, and I will see you next week. Take care.